Hey, welcome back to Small Couch Reviews, everybody. It's your boy Sam on this Comic Book Wednesday. Hopefully, you guys all got to your pull lists. Uh, I want to talk about a comic book that is very special to me. It is in my top 10, maybe even my top 5. It was on my pull list religiously way back in 2011, and that is Morning Glories. Written by Nick Spencer with art by Joe Eisma. I have here the first 5 issues, which I will be talking about with you. Now, the artist, Joe Eisma, this is the only work of his I'm familiar with, which, is enough for me. I love the artwork. We'll get to that in a second. But Nick Spencer, there was a point where he was one of my favorite writers. I mean, he did some Iron Man, he did some Spider-Man. But what he's probably most famous for is his Captain America. He's the one who wrote the first Captain America, when Sam Wilson became Captain America. He wrote that book. He also wrote the highly controversial crossover where Captain America, I don't know, you guys remember? He became an agent of Hydra, apparently. He was an undercover agent this whole time. And yeah, he's the one responsible for that. But under Image Comics, he's also responsible for Bedlam, which is another great series. I'll probably talk about at another date. And Morning Glories here, which, again, I think is just it's so superior. It's so good. I'm going to get right into it right now. We're going to talk about it. There will be spoilers, minor spoilers. Now, the book is pretty old, but I want you to read it. But I have to talk about the plot a little bit, at least for the first trade paperback. But trust me, this plot is so deep. Unless I talked about all 50 issues that came out now, there's no way I could spoil it for you. So let's get into it. So the story revolves around this academy known as Morning Glories Academy. And the series literally starts off with a bang. We see an explosion in the school. We see students running away. For some reason, they're trying to escape. We then realize that the teachers in the school might not be that great. And it ends with one of the students basically having his head exploded. Oh yeah, I should mention this is a rated M comic. Like, this is not for teens, it's not for kids. This is a mature comic book. There is some language and some imagery in here that, yeah, it's just for adults. Okay. After this, we see the main teacher, Miss Daramount, talking about, you know what, our new batch of kids are coming in. Let's see what they're about. And that's when we meet our main characters, who we call the Glories. We got 6 of them. We got our headstrong leader, Casey. We got our nice guy, Hunter. We got shy girl, Jade. Popular girl, Zoe. Self-aware douchebag, Ike or Isaac. And then the quiet and strong one named June. Now, when they get to the school, and this is all in the first issue, when they get to the school, the Glories start to realize something. First of all, the way they get there, they all fall asleep in the car mysteriously, so they don't actually realize the route they took to get there. They get there and they all notice things, like they all have the same birthdays. Um, they call their parents, and some of them just act like they don't know who they are. They don't know where they are. They can't leave. And our main girl, Casey, is the one who pieces all this together and goes, hey, so something weird is happening here. It is then we find out that the school has basically captured them, kidnapped them, and won't let them go. And did we really find out that they are serious and just terrible people? Because at the end of the issue, what do? They kill Casey's parents and hang them on a wall. Again, I know that sounds like a big spoiler, but trust me, it's the tippy top of the iceberg. It's really not. Anyway, the next couple issues focus on let's say the sadism of these teachers. They're basically there to, like, either the students will do what they need them to do or they're going to die. Like, they do a lot of things. But what we see here is they actually attempt to drown them. They attempt to drown them unless Casey answers a question correctly. Like, they basically say, hey, who discovered this isn't the question, but it's like, who discovered the light bulb? And Casey's like, well, I'm not doing anything for you people. You killed my parents. And they're like, all right, cool. We'll just drown you instead. So they drown her and her classmates. Excuse me. They drown her and her classmates until Casey answers, which she does. After this, Jade, who has become Casey's kind of best friend, is taken away. And the next couple of volumes focus on Casey rallying her fellow Glories, including the douchebag Ike, to execute a plan to save Jade from the teachers. Now, the reason they take away Jade and what happens when she's taken away is something I'm not really going to get into. I like it's quite interesting, and it plays into the future of the book, which again I'll talk about a little later. But I think the point of this main trade issue is the first trade, which is the first 5 volumes. It's to show you that Casey is not one to be messed with. She outsmarts the teachers and basically says, "I'm stuck here. Fine. I'm going to burn this place to the ground and I'm going to get my friends out." And that is how the first volume kind of ends. So it's just basically Casey, the Glories rather, versus the teachers led by Casey. So they're trapped in a school that they can't escape and they're trying to get out. That alone would be an interesting enough premise for me to be like, oh, okay, this is cool. But the next couple issues focus on these students, and we start to learn that the school, there's obviously a reason the school wanted them, and we start to learn a little bit about that, And then questions start to form in your head. It's kind of like Lost, kind of like the old show Lost, right? Because you're like, okay, what is this school? What is this like monster they have running around campus that is like, ripping the brains out of people? Why does one of the Glories have someone who looks like them at the school? Why is one of the Glories able to talk to their future selves? How come one of them only sees 8:13 whenever he looks at a clock? What is the significance of that time? What is this phrase that keeps popping up everywhere? Who is this man that appears in all of their lives for some reason? How is one of them raised in another country able to speak English when she never heard it before? Ike, the douchebag. Is he just a douche or is he actually a murderer? Like, all these things pop into your head as you're reading and it holds your interest. Now, when issue 13 hits, I will just say that's when things just go all, if you watch Doctor Who, I'll say timey-wimey. Like, a big part of this series is time and what it means. Now, there are currently 50 issues out. And the first 20, when they divided into 2 seasons, the first 25 are season 1, the next 25 are season 2. We'll say the first 25 deal with the Glories, their adventures in the school, them discovering what's going on and all the time manipulation and all that, and them basically fighting the teachers trying to escape, led by Casey. And each one of them doing their own thing, trying to, they each have their, let's say, their mission that they're trying to accomplish, and we learn about them. Season 2, we are introduced to remember I told you that story started with a bang, with an explosion with the class? We learn about that class. They're called the Truants in this series. And we learn about what happens when they first arrive, before the Glories even got there, which is very interesting because they actually knew what the school was, what these teachers were, how evil they were, and they went voluntarily, which, opens a whole nother can of worms of interest. And you're wondering, well, why'd they come here? And the school would only accept them if they were somehow special too, when you learn their little quirks. So you have excellent plot, excellent characters, excellent world building. But I will admit, the first time I read this, because I actually recently reread it, the first time I read this, when it was coming out week to week, I was getting kind of lost. Like I said, sometimes you'll be reading and you won't even notice. And I'm not saying like book to book. I'm saying panel to panel. Someone may be talking in the present, and then you flip the page and that same person's talking, but they're talking to someone in the past, which might sound irritating, but trust me, it's not, especially because starting in issue 27, the author himself writes little notes at the back of the book, kind of explaining to you what's going on in a funny way. So, he'll recap, hey, this is what happened so far. And you know what? Maybe I think this is what this means. And maybe you should go back and read issue 3 before you read the next one. It might come in handy. So I thought Nick Spencer was really good in doing that and helping us out. Now, outside of that, the art in this book, is just, it's so good. Now, I have in my hands here issues 2, issues 4, and issue 3. I don't know why I did them out of order, but start with some portraits of our characters. This is Zoe. We have Ike, and then we have 9, who is one of this faculty, which I can't tell, or I don't know if you can see her face, but she's not okay. She's a very terrible person. But the cover art themselves is why I wanted the single issues. But even the interior art, man, like I said, I actually pulled out my comics and I was just flipping through some of this, and his art style, from the way he draws people to emotions, the disgust and the fear in their eyes. It's so good. And then the lettering. Now if you're a fan of Grant Morrison, you know there are pages that are filled like with word bubbles. And while they're but I mean it's necessary to get his exposition across. And this isn't a superhero book with a bunch of pow pow pow. So there is a lot of exposition. But the way the lettering is done and the way the word bubbles are organized, it seems very clean and very nice, for lack of a better word. It's very nice. So yeah, Morning Glories, definitely a recommended read. If you're someone who likes mystery, if you're someone who likes great world building, relatable characters, and if you're one of those people who likes your patience rewarded, then I think you'll really, really dig this one. If you've already read it, then you know what I mean. And I really want to hear from you because I would love to talk about this with people. Now I'll end with the biggest sin this book has committed is that it has not released a issue since 2017, I think. Joe Eisma, if you go to his Twitter right now today, his top pinned tweet is, "Hey, no updates on Morning Glories just yet. I'll let you know when I hear something from Nick." So I mean, if it's his top pinned thing, I'm sure he's aware that the fans are aching for it. Its hiatus is, ugh, it's been rough, man, because the next arc goes into these kids' summer vacation, and it ended on a pretty big cliffhanger. So, looking forward to seeing how this story ends. Hopefully, it does end. But even if we have to wait a little longer, I do think this is one where the journey that you go on with these characters is worth the ride. All right. Anyway, thank you for sticking around. Hopefully, you like this comic book if you pick it up. Definitely appreciate you watching. Until next time, I'm out.